You'll break out laughing. Yeah, you'll get the joke, right? You'll know that you're awake because nothing can disturb your wa, right? Because you are fundamentally awake. And awake, this comes back to Buddhism 101, Bud, awake, right? And then the traditions run with that awakeness. What does that awakeness mean? It means you see through the myth of your evaluating. It means you see directly through your ego. You see the ego as a fundamental process. And you recognize that before Christ, before Gautama Buddha, before Abraham, you are. Right? And that's a humbling place. That's not some narcissistic, arrogant, I'm awake place. Right? It's like, oh my God, this is who I am. And then what?
This was my shot. I cried a lot. It was so embarrassing. I got fired from Frasier, the one everyone knew was going to be a hit, and it was. This time, it was really hard not to think that it wasn't meant to be my career as an actress. A couple of months later, I was almost completely out of money. Then I got a call from a friend, the actor Richard Kind, who said, and this is exactly how he sounds, "I heard what happened. I don't know how you get up in the morning. How do you even get out of bed, get dressed, walk out the door, and show your face?" I was getting up in the morning and leaving my apartment, so maybe I was coping better than I was expected to. That's a good sign. And I understand that because the 20s, they are that time in your life when you're really getting acquainted to self-doubt, when there's so much seemingly at stake. So let me reassure you, it's not supposed to be easy. You're supposed to have moments of uncertainty about which path to take, because the 20s are full of crossroads. When one door closes, another door always opens. It really does. That's what I would tell myself, to keep those moments of doubts only moments. And it worked. I kept going. Then it all changed. After many auditions, I was the second person cast in the pilot called Friends Like Us, which would later be changed to Friends. Jim Burrows also directed this pilot and the first 10 episodes of Friends. One day the 6 of us were talking with Jimmy, exchanging the time I got fired stories. And Jimmy told them mine. "Well, she's got the worst one of all. She got fired from Frasier." "Well, it's a good thing you got fired or you wouldn't have been on this show." He was right. And it was a good thing I didn't get Saturday Night Live. And that Romy and Michelle, that pilot didn't work out. And every other disappointment that happened. They were actually more like guideposts that kept me on my path. Oh, and after I got fired from Frasier, I went to a birthday party, and feeling like I had nothing at all to lose, I flirted with a guy who was way out of my league. We dated, and on Thursday, Michelle and I will have been married for 15 years. And we'll celebrate with our remarkable 12-year-old son. So, thank God I got fired. There is a reason for everything.
Race, nationality, all of these things were created to separate humanity. They are ego-based concepts. And in essence, underneath it all, we are energy. Okay, that's a big sign you're highly awake. And that's what I had to realize. Oh, I get it. You see, if you've got so many different countries, it means you're going to have so many different wars, separation. But imagine, ever hear that song by John Lennon? There's no countries. Oh my gosh, what are we fighting for? Slow motion this side. Can I get a hello?
In times of chaos and crisis, what we all tend to do, right, start pointing fingers at where we think the bad guys are. where the evil is. We all start arguing. Everybody has different opinions about that. Please do not forget that hatred or evil, whatever you want to call it, it's intelligent, it's smart, and it's invisible. It doesn't have a color, it doesn't have a race, it doesn't have a religion, it has no politics. It's an invisible snake that while it is planning to make its attack, it is thinking to itself, I am going to divide my enemy into smaller, less strong groups, and then I'm going to make them hate each other so that it's easier to take them down. And as we're all yelling at each other, trying to figure out which group it is that's causing the problem, evil's winning all around us. So we have to get rid of those labels. These different factions, gay, straight, rich, poor, mentally ill, not mentally ill, gun owner, not gun owner. None of this can matter anymore. We are unified in our humanity. And the only thing that we all know, we all appreciate in one another is kindness. So this has to come before all things, and you must operate relentlessly this way with everything you have. Forget about the money. When you talk to the people, go out and talk to the people. Look them in the eye. Speak to them. Mobilize the kids. They're smart. They're smart, and they believe because they are not yet jaded. They believe the world can change.
Peace, infinite waters. Diving deep once again. We are out here in nature, baby. Deep divers of planet Earth. Let's just breathing in that good ass prana, baby.
We are absolutely connected. You know, it's like there's no question about it to me. There's no separation. That's been physically proven by science. I think everybody's looking for something that they already have.
I think the reason that we don't notice it is because we are so distracted by the human levels of our experience. Because you might not actually be what you think you are.
The fact that we are already enlightened, we're already complete, and it's just realizing that you're complete. So everything we do to each other, or everything we see in each other, is us seeing ourselves.
And yet the one thing that remains is this feeling of existence. I'm not a human being that has consciousness. I'm consciousness that is shaped into a human being. And similarly, we might not be waves. Maybe we're the ocean. Maybe all of us are energy, and we can realize that directly. All suffering is based on the illusory separation that there's an individual in the environment, that there's a person that has to survive, that this specific collection of 1,000 trillion atoms has to hold itself together. But if I realize directly that I am energy, and I realize that the body and the mind are a temporary manifestation of that energy, then I can fully accept the death of the body and mind as something that does not happen to me, because I was always energy and I always will be.
Ego tries to convince us we need to get something, this immortality, that we already possess. Ego is the voice in your head that says you're not as good as that other person. Maybe you need to do something else to make yourself better, to add to yourself. You know, and that's what it constantly is doing. It's trying to keep you from being you and me right now, loving this and loving this life.
I want you to watch extremely carefully for an emotional reaction in you. Your psyche will produce an emotional reaction right now. So I want you to watch for it. And I want you to just observe it. Don't react. Just observe your emotional reactions, okay? So here's the truth.
Underneath the superficial self, which pays attention to this and that, there is another self, more really us than I. And if you become aware of that unknown self, the more you become aware of it, the more you realize that it is inseparably connected with everything else that there is. That you are a function of this total galaxy, bounded by the Milky Way, and that furthermore this galaxy is a function of all other galaxies. And that vast thing that you see far off, far off, far off with telescopes, and you look and look and look, one day you're going to wake up and say, why, that's me. And in knowing that, you see that you never die. That you are the eternal thing that comes and goes, that appears now as John Jones, now as Mary Smith, now as Betty Brown, so it goes forever and ever and ever and ever. The experience you are having, which you call ordinary everyday consciousness, pretending you're not it, that experience is exactly the same thing as it. There's no difference at all. See, the source of all light is in the eye. If there were no eyes in this world, the sun would not be light. You evoke light out of the universe. In the same way, you, by virtue of having a soft skin, evoke hardness out of wood. Wood is only hard in relation to a soft skin. It's your eardrum that evokes noise out of the air. You, by being this organism, call into being the whole universe of light and color and hardness and heaviness and everything. You see? Every one of us is an aperture through which the whole cosmos looks out. You see, it's as if you had a light covered with a black ball, and in this ball were pinholes, and each pinhole is an aperture through which the light comes out. So in that way, every one of us is actually a pinhole through which the fundamental light, that is the existence itself, looks out. Only the game we're playing is not to know this. Therefore, that what you call the external world is as much you as your own body. Your skin doesn't separate you from the world, it's a bridge through which the external world flows into you, and you flow into it. What you are basically, deep, deep down, far, far in, is simply the fabric and structure of existence itself. In this universe, there is one great energy, and we have no name for it. People have tried various names for it, like God, like Brahman, like Tao. But in the West, the word God has got so many funny associations attached to it that most of us are bored with it. When people say God the Father Almighty, most people feel funny inside. But according to Buddhist philosophy, all this universe is one tatata. That means 10,000 functions or 10,000 things, one suchness. And we're all one suchness. And that means that suchness comes and goes like everything else, because this whole world is an on and off system. As the Chinese say, it's the yang and the yin. And therefore it consists of now you see it, now you don't, here you are, here you aren't, here you aren't. Because that's the very nature of energy, to be like waves, and waves have crests and troughs. Only we, being under a certain kind of sleepiness or illusion, imagine that the trough is going to overcome the wave or the crest. The yin, the dark principle, is going to overcome the yang or the light principle, and that off is finally going to triumph over on. And we, shall I say, bug ourselves by indulging in that illusion. Gee, supposing darkness did win out, wouldn't that be terrible? And so we're constantly trembling and thinking that it may, because after all, isn't it odd that anything exists? It's most peculiar. It requires effort, it requires energy, and it would be so much easier for there to have been nothing at all. Therefore we think, well, since the is side of things is so much effort, you always give up after a while and you sink back into death. But death is just the other face of energy. And it's the rest, the not being anything around, that produces something around, just in the same way that you can't have solid without space, or space without solid. When you wake up to this, and realize that the more it changes, the more it's the same thing, as the French say, that you are really a playing of this one energy, and there is nothing else but that it is you, but that for you to be always you would be an insufferable bore. And therefore it is arranged that you stop being you after a while and then come back as someone else altogether. And so when you find that out, you become full of energy and delight. And you suddenly see through the whole sham of things. You realize you're that. We won't put a name on it. You're that. And you can't be anything else. So you are relieved of fundamental terror. That doesn't mean that you're always going to be a great hero, that you won't jump when you hear it bang, that you won't worry occasionally, that you won't lose your temper. It means, though, that fundamentally, deep, deep down within you, you will be able to be human in the pains, difficulties, and struggles that naturally go with human existence. But to have no hang-up, that is to say, to be able to drift like a cloud and flow like water, seeing that all life is a magnificent illusion, a playing of energy, and there is absolutely nothing fundamentally to be afraid of. Fundamentally. You will be afraid on the surface. You will be afraid of putting your hand in the fire. You will be afraid of getting sick. But you will not be afraid of fear. Fear will pass over your mind like a black cloud will be reflected in the mirror.
This is therefore to say that transformation of human consciousness through meditation is frustrated so long as we think of it in terms of something that I myself can bring about by some kind of wangle, by some sort of gimmick.
Because you see, that leads to endless games of spiritual one-upmanship and of guru competitions. Of my guru is more effective than your guru. My yogas are faster than your yoga. I'm more aware of myself than you are. I'm humbler than you are. I'm sorrier for my sins than you are. I love you more than you love me. This interminable goings on about which people fight and wonder whether they're a little bit more evolved than somebody else and so on. All that can just fall away. And then we get this strange feeling that we have never had, you see, in our lives, except occasionally by accident. Some people get a glimpse that we are no longer this poor little stranger and afraid in a world it never made, but that you are this universe, and you are creating it at every moment. Because you see, it starts now. It didn't begin in the past. There was no past. See, if the universe began in the past, when that happened, it was now. See? Well, it's still now. And the universe is still beginning now, and it's trailing off like the wake of a ship from now. And that wake of the ship fades out, so does the past. You can look back there to explain things, but the explanation disappears. You'll never find it there. Things are not explained by the past. They're explained by what happens now. That creates the past, and it begins here. That's the birth of responsibility. Because otherwise, you can always look over your shoulder and say, well, I'm the way I am because my mother dropped me. And she dropped me because she was neurotic, because her mother dropped her. Now away we go back to Adam and Eve, or to a disappearing monkey or something. We never get at it. But in this way, you're faced with it, you're doing all this. And that's an extraordinary shock. So, cheer up. You can't blame anyone else for the kind of world you're in. And if you know, you see, that I, in the sense of the person, the front, the ego, really doesn't exist, then it won't go to your head too badly if you wake up and discover that you're God.
So, say in Hindu mythology, they say that the world is the drama of God. God is not something in Hindu mythology with a white beard that sits on a throne that has royal prerogatives. God in Indian mythology is the self, Sat Chit Ananda, which means Sat, that which is, Chit, that which is consciousness, that which is Ananda is bliss. And in other words, that what exists, reality itself, is gorgeous. It is the plenum, the fullness of total joy. Wow-wee. And all those stars, if you look out in the sky, as a firework display like you see on the 4th of July, which is a great occasion for celebration. The universe is a celebration. It is a firework show to celebrate that existence is. Wow-wee. Don't you realize that sitting around here in this room, with our ordinary everyday faces and clothes and personalities, we are sitting smack in the middle of the beatific vision, and that this is infinity and eternity precisely. It is it, and this is the beatific vision. This is God. But Confucius once said, a man who understands the Tao in the morning can die contentedly in the evening. That is to say, if you have ever lived one complete moment you can be ready to die. You can say, well, that was it. That was the good. That I've had it. What you are basically, deep, deep down, far, far in, is simply the fabric and structure of existence itself. And you suddenly say, good heavens! What was I making all that fuss about? Because here we are. It's what we were looking for all the time. It's right here. And that's it, that's the thing. You're ready to wake up, you're going to wake up. And if you're not ready, you're going to stay pretending that you're just a little, poor little me. And since you're all here and engaged in this sort of inquiry and listening to this sort of lecture, I assume that you're all on the process of waking up. Or else you're teasing yourselves with some kind of flirtation with waking up, which you're not serious about. But I assume maybe you are, not serious but sincere, that you are ready to wake up. So then, when you're in the way of waking up and finding out who you really are, what you do is what the whole universe is doing at the place you call here and now. You are something the whole universe is doing in the same way that a wave is something that the whole ocean is doing. The real you is not a puppet which life pushes around. The real deep down you is the whole universe. So then, when you die, you're not going to have to put up with everlasting non-existence, because that's not an experience. A lot of people are afraid that when they die, they're going to be locked up in a dark room forever. And sort of undergo that. But one of the most interesting things in the world, this is a yoga, this is a way of realization. Try and imagine what it will be like to go to sleep and never wake up. Think about that. Children think about it. It's one of the great wonders of life. What will it be like to go to sleep and never wake up? And if you think long enough about that, something will happen to you. You will find out, among other things, that it'll pose the next question to you. What was it like to wake up after having never gone to sleep? That was when you were born. You see, you can't have an experience of nothing. Nature abhors a vacuum. So after you're dead, the only thing that can happen is the same experience, or the same sort of experience as when you were born. In other words, we all know very well that after people die, other people are born. And they're all you. Only you can only experience it one at a time. Everybody is I. You all know you're you. And wheresoever beings exist throughout all galaxies, it doesn't make any difference. You are all of them. And when they come into being, that's you coming into being. You know that very well. Only you don't have to remember the past in the same way you don't have to think about how you work your thyroid gland or whatever else it is in your organism. You don't have to know how to shine the sun. You just do it. Like you breathe. Doesn't it really astonish you that you are this fantastically complex thing? And that you're doing all of this and you never had any education in how to do it?
As an actor, you play characters, and then if you go deep enough into those characters, you realize that your own character is pretty thin to begin with, you know? And then you suddenly have this separation and go, well, who's Jim Carrey? Oh, he doesn't exist, actually. There's just a a relative manifestation of consciousness appearing, and then somebody gave him a bunch of ideas. They gave him a name and a religion and a nationality, and he clustered those together into something that's supposed to be a personality. And it doesn't actually exist. And none of that stuff, if you drill down, is real.
Is it fair to say that it pushed you into some kind of existential crisis?
Fugue state?
Well, I mean, it's kind of what you're saying.
It wasn't a crisis, it's an existential experiment, but that's been my life, you know. I believe that I got famous so that I could let go of fame, you know, and it's still happening, but not with me. I'm not a part of it anymore. Dressing happens, doing hair happens, interviewing happens, and it happens without me, without the idea of a me. There's just what's happening, and it's not personal. It feels like, you know, things are happening, you know, and they're going to happen whether I attach myself as an ego to it or not. You know, there's grooves that are cut pretty deep, you know, from my entire life. There's still an energy that wants to be admired and wants to be clever, and there's still an energy that wants to free people from concern, and now it goes further. I want to, you know, kind of relate what this is to people so that maybe they can also kind of glimpse the abyss of. It sounds scary, but it's not. There's gratitude, and there's wonder, and there's excitement, and all of it is happening and rising out of nowhere and happening for no one.
That's wonderful.
But how do we market it?
Do you have any other question after hearing that?
Norm MacDonald is a name.
Yes.
He has a religion. He has a nationality. He has a hockey team that he loves.
And that's exactly what I want to know.
These are the fucking abstract fucking building blocks that he cobbles together into some sort of pseudo fucking personality that can be identified by the police. Jesus.
So what's the question?
What do you mean?
There's no him. There is a relative, you know, manifestation, obviously happening, that it's pretty fucking convincing at times.
Well, I think you're doing things you love now, though.
No, I am. It's true. There's no pressure whatsoever. I truly am kind of needless in the universe. Yeah, I'm just doing, because doing is happening.
Once you realize you're complete, then this life and everything in it becomes a play of form, something to toy with and play with and make something good out of, and it really isn't to be worried about. It's to have fun with. You know, everyone is looking for God, and everyone is God, and that everyone is it. It's just now, what do you want to do? And once you realize that, then there's nothing you need. It's just play. You know, nothing you do is going to add anything to you.
Right.
And nothing you do is going to take anything away from you. So there really is nothing to do except play.
Good luck. Wake up! Preferably now. And there is a way to go about, again, doing that. But that's a commercial, and do that another time.